Have you ever seen those advertisements of someone trying to sell some type of workshop or course, and it looks a little bit something like this? Hey you! Are you tired of being a socially awkward loser? Are you tired of accidentally telling your waiter you too when they tell you to enjoy your meal? Are you looking to upgrade your conversational skills? And are you looking to stop being a lonely loser and trying to find some friends or even romantic relationships? Well, search no more, because our 30-day workshop, Skibbity Riz, will help you with all of those things. Our amazing 30-day workshop course will help you get all the information you need to become the most charismatic person that anyone has ever seen. No more awkwardly swiping through your phone whenever you feel uncomfortable in a conversation because you don't know what to say next. Our course will teach you the ways to get people to fall in love with your non-existent personality. And before, we had this course priced at $100,000 because of how jam-packed it is with information. But because we want to see you succeed for a limited time only, we've cut the price down to only $50,000. Wow. So press the link now and join the millions of other people who stop their awkward ways with Skibbity Riz. So this tactic in business and consumer psychology is called price anchoring. Price anchoring is putting an initial price as an anchor, or the price to compare before dropping the original price to something lower. So in relativity, you seem to be getting a deal. But in reality, the lower price was always the original price. It was just our perception of value that made it seem that way. Remember value perception from my Brandy Melville video? If you go down a pen aisle and you want to pick up a pack of pens, they're all going to be relatively within the same price range. But then if you see a singular pen worth $30, you're going to think you're crazy, the world is crazy, or you've been somehow teleported to Erewhon. You have a preset perception on what the item, or in this example, the course of Skibbity Riz, is worth, but that changes in relativity because of the price drop, so customers will be more inclined to buy it. So what's the point of me saying all this? I'm saying that price anchoring is basically what's happening to this underconsumption trend. Except we would probably call it something like relative comparison or a contrast effect. If you're unaware of what underconsumption core or the underconsumption trend is, it's basically a response to the overconsumption trend of buying a bunch of excessive items you don't need. People are trying to become more self-aware and stop buying things that all their favorite influencers and celebrities buy just because they tell you to buy it. And they're trying to avoid that herd mentality and conformity and become a bit more conscious on what they want to buy, whether or not they actually need it, and how it affects them financially and also the environment. Now, when I first heard of underconsumption core without fully understanding the context of what it meant to people or doing any research on it or watching any videos about it, I thought that it was just the exact opposite of overconsumption core. I was just under the impression that people were just going to burn everything in their house and start a whole new Minecraft world. It's okay, I do it sometimes. In Minecraft, not in real life. I thought people were going to be living a lifestyle as if they were poor or very low income. But when I did finally watch videos of underconsumption core, whether it be commentary or actual videos and TikToks of people practicing the lifestyle, people were basically just showing how they have products from years ago and they still use them, or how they make sure they use all of their products like their lotion and makeup and etc. before buying new ones. And people just having a reasonable amount of items in their pantries and cabinets and fridges, and how they didn't have a whole wall full of an assortment of Stanley cups. Actually, you want to know something? I be getting on the Stanley community and how they have a whole plethora of cups to choose from and that they're never gonna use. But I honestly have the same issue with mugs. But the thing is, I don't buy mugs. No one in my family really buys mugs. Where do they come from? How are they just spawning in our house? Anyways, the point is, it didn't seem like underconsumption more than it just was normal consumption core. Like, that's just living a regular life, and a lot of people have the same exact feelings on the matter. If you watch some of these underconsumption videos and you go into the comments, you'll see so many people being like, this is just normal consumption core, this isn't underconsumption core, and they say it in almost a judgmental manner, like they're disappointed that they're just buying a normal amount. We'll get to that a little bit later. But why is it called underconsumption core if this is something that people have been doing for a really long time? Well, it just goes back to that price anchoring strategy, or just that contrast effect that us humans tend to have. The price anchor in this example would be overconsumption. We are so used to the excessive hauls, the excessive buying in a surplus amount of them, that has somewhat become a norm for a lot of us. So in comparison, seeing people cut back on that seems like they're doing a lot less, when in actuality, they're just doing the regular minimum amount. It's such an extreme that our brains tend to look at this and think, wow, That's a great deal, or in this case, that's a great habit that is very different from the overconsumption trend that we have going on. And it's completely different, and it is definitely much better. But it's not underconsumption more than it is just consuming a normal amount. According to Albert Einstein, everything is relative. And even though he didn't really say that in regards to underconsumption core, and it was used for much more complex things that I will never be able to understand, it still applies in this situation. As long as there is something to compare the other thing with, our brains are always going to find the less extreme as the better option. So for buying items, we tend to look for things that are a deal by doing things like buying in bulk, buy one, get one free, or a monthly versus a yearly subscription plan. But sometimes in reality, when we sit back and do the calculations, we realize that we're really not getting that big of a deal. So it's really more of an illusion of some type of progress or an achievement than the actuality of it. And so one must ponder, if we only find something to be less extreme in regards to something else, can there really be true progress that is to be made? That one wasn't Einstein, by the way. That was, just me and my intellect. My intelligence is just another plane of existence you guys wouldn't understand. I still can't spell the word scissors. For a lot of people, if we're only seeing underconsumption as a good thing in relativity to overconsumption, are people really making any progress at all? Are we truly seeing this issue at face value like we should be? Or is it kind of being watered down because of the standards that we set for shopping? For overconsumption to be like top of the ceiling, top notch, over excessive, but for normal consumption to be underconsumption, our perception of consumerism and values in the things that we buy is a little bit skewed. It just shows the damage that's been done to our perception of what normal consumption is or what normal buying is, and how we're responding to that in order to do less of it when we're really just doing a normal amount. So that's an understandable criticism that people may have when it comes to underconsumption. And it's definitely not the only one either. There are a lot of people that have a lot of criticisms about it. But other people think that even if there are some downsides, this is actually a good step in the right direction. While watching other people talk about underconsumption, I went to the comments and I found someone who said this: I think the people complaining about underconsumption being a trend don't realize how powerful trends are to the younger generation. If we can do anything to make buying less seem cool, then why not do it? Isn't that what we want? And they're not the only one. There's a bunch of other comments who are talking about how this underconsumption trend could actually be very helpful in not only raising awareness, but starting a movement that people can actually realize that, whoa, I don't need a million things from Temu like all of the influencers have. This is a very true point. We obviously know how powerful trends are, for the fact that they have people beating each other up for cups. And maybe that the concept of a trend itself isn't what's bad, because trends always existed, but it's more of the application of it that's the issue. Instead of using the power of trends for things like Hello Kitty obsessions or Skibbity toilet, we could use it to promote good morals and ideals, like being less wasteful and helping the environment. However, a very big fear that people have when talking about underconsumption is that it's just another trend. People are afraid that this is something that'll die out quickly, just like any other trend or aesthetic, because we all know how many different aesthetics there are now. I made a whole video about it, and people are already saying that underconsumption core is just a subgenre of minimalism core, or the de-influencing trend. It's just going to be another short-lived trend that won't actually have an impact on anybody, at least not genuinely. Because of the performative act of it, people are just bragging about how they've had stuff for so many years and how they're such a good person who cares about the environment. And not everybody does this also, by the way, but a lot of people feel like it's a subtle flex, kind of a putting yourself on a moral pedestal. And also another issue that people have with this ideal that the only way to get people to care about a movement is through a trend implies that without the glamorization of a certain topic or ideal, and without making it digestible or easy to consume on the internet, we won't bother to pay attention to it. Like there can only be a significant movement because some people on the internet made it a trend or a game or some type of a competition so that people can change their lifestyle, which I also find those perspectives to be very valid as well. Even if there's seemingly no harm to the individual aspect of it, when you look at it as a whole, it definitely can show a bigger issue when it comes to just our behavior and the consumption of information on the internet. Is this really something we should be making a trend? Is calling it underconsumption an incorrect label because you're not actually working with the bare minimum? Because that's something that people will nitpick in the comment section of certain underconsumption core videos. People will show their kitchens with a fridge full of food and be like, yeah, I'm practicing underconsumption. They show all their appliances they had from a long time ago. They show that everything is kept in their original bottles, no need to empty it to put it in a more aesthetic bottle. But God forbid you have a fridge full of food, because people in the comments will be like, That's not underconsumption. You have a fridge full of food. I'm sorry. You're still being wasteful and you are still actively killing the planet. But it's like, do you want them to starve? Unless you want that photosynthesis diet that the plants be using, you need food. And it doesn't make sense for them to have one meal in the fridge a day, to have to go out every day to get another meal so their fridge isn't full. Like, it's not making sense. But again, the ideal of a stark contrast is that people have a different perspective on what it actually means to be under consumption core. Some people are taking this very literally and actually expect you to do the bare minimum, which a lot of people say is a little bit insulting and cosplaying the poor or the lower income class. But once again, keeping overconsumption at the top, that's the anchor. Everything else below that seems good enough for others, but not good enough for the rest. Because of all the massive hauls and the overspending on the internet, a lot of people are completely confused with what is actually being resourceful and not over-consuming. How many times should you reuse an item before you buy a new one? What actually qualifies as a need when it comes to necessities? What type of item should you buy when the time comes when you have to replace something? Do you get something really expensive that'll last a long time, or something cheap and affordable within your price range? For a lot of people, it's anything that isn't the overconsumption. It's anything that isn't the price anchor, anything that wasn't what it used to be. But if we only have the definition of what it shouldn't be, but no real definition on what it does need to be, naturally it's gonna cause some conflict. But at the end of the day, progress is still progress. If you were buying 10 Amazon packages every week and you cut down to 8, is that good? No, stop buying so many packages, but it is better. And I see for a lot of people, this is the route they're trying to take when we're thinking about this underconsumption trend, that even though it's a trend, it might integrate itself into people's lifestyle. Now, I wouldn't really consider myself an optimist. I'm definitely in the category of a realist. And if I'm being completely honest, realism with a little bit of bias towards pessimism. But a lot of people are trying to look at this as a necessary evil of some sort, or a good thing, even if it is just a trend and something that people want to hop on, the bandwagon just because the bar is so high because of all of the overconsumption. Anything that isn't what we were originally influenced to do is the better option. Is it really an illusion of progress, or is this something that could actually help people and wake them up from their obsession of shopping and even possibly integrate it into their lifestyle? I don't know. We're really just gonna have to see. I mean, time will tell at this point. I guess we'll see how numbers go, how social media handles this. As you can see in this one, I don't have very strong feelings for or against this trend. As somebody who's never really had an issue with shopping a ton, and I'm not very easily influenced, I would call myself a rational shopper, which, if you don't know what that is, it's torture. It's sitting at a shop for 2 hours with the same pair of shoes, wondering if you should actually ever even buy it because you don't know if you're going to wear it, and then you waste 2 hours of your life just to leave the store and not buy anything. I'm not exactly fun to go to malls with. Overconsumption has never really been an issue for me. I guess that's just the way that I was raised, or I'm not easily swayed into doing things, or I don't easily get addicted to things. But if this is something that truly can help other people with their addiction to shopping, then I mean, it's what they gotta do. Because even if our mind makes it seem like we're getting some type of a deal, it's better than nothing. But anyways, what are your thoughts on the trend? Do you practice the underconsumption core life or minimalism lifestyle? If you do, has it actually helped you to stop before you go buying a bunch of stuff you don't need? Do you have any criticisms against it? Let me know all that in the comments down below. With that being said, that's all I have for you today. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.